Back on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Joining me right now to discuss the controversy in Fort Worth and the possibility, the Obama administration wanting to push this to all schools, it seems. The Lieutenant Governor of the state of Texas, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Governor, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Chad. Always great to be with you.
Well, I appreciate that. You were in Fort Worth yesterday. And there were some politicos, some former school board members who said that you were just expressing some fake outrage at what the superintendent there in Fort Worth is doing. I'm not sure that he knows what fake outrage is, if he thinks that yours is fake outrage.
Yeah, well, I can tell you it's not fake. In fact, it's such a critical issue for every parent to really understand what's going on here. And if I can, Chad, real quick, give you a rundown of why I held a press conference yesterday. This broke the day before, late in the afternoon. And I was actually in the middle of a TV interview then, and someone asked me about it. I quickly read the guidelines, and I gave a response that this needs to be rescinded and he needs to resign, the superintendent. And here's the reason why. First of all, under the Education Code 26.008, every parent, Chad, has a right to know what's going on with their child in school. In this guideline put out by the superintendent, not voted on by the board, not shared with the public to make comment on, but an executive order by the superintendent on his own, he says in his guidelines that if a child going through transgender transition, in other words, if a boy believes they really want to be a girl and a girl believes they really want to be a boy, and we're talking about a handful of students here out of 80,000, that if that child says that don't tell my parents, the school district will not tell their parents. Now, that's against the law because the school district cannot withhold any information from parents concerning activity. No child can say, don't tell my parents. The only way a child could say that is if they feel they're in danger at home, if they're being abused, and if that's the case, then the school district has a responsibility to contact legal authorities, the police, CPS, et cetera. This is not the case here. What this superintendent says, that we're going to let this student, they could be 7 years old. They could be 17. They could be 12. It could be a boy who thinks they're a girl or a girl thinks they're a boy. We're not going to tell the parents. First of all, that's outrageous. Our school districts and this superintendent do not own our children when we drop them off at the schoolhouse. We have a right under law to know what's going on with their children. Secondly, also under the Education Code, a superintendent's responsibilities and duties include creating policy, but taking it to the board and letting the public have input. This was done all in secret. Now they're lying about, he said, and this even makes me more suspect of the superintendent because he testified last night in a board hearing that this is just updating old policy. No, this is not old policy. Back in 2010, this school district, rightfully so, passed policies that no student for any reason should ever be harassed and bullied. I support that. Everyone supports that. This is a proactive policy that would do the following, Chad. If this is allowed to stand, a boy who thinks they're a girl can shower with the girls, can go into the bathroom with the girls, or a girl thinks she's a boy can go in with the boys. Now, do you know what kind of chaos this creates in the schoolhouse? And if, by the way, let's say a boy believes their identity is that of a female, I want to go out for the girls' basketball team. Now, they're on the girls' basketball team or whatever, or they just want to shower with the girls. Now, what if some of the girls on the team or other girls in the bathroom case say, I'm not comfortable with that boy being in here? Guess what? It's up to that child, the students who are straight, who identify themselves as the sex they were born, it's up to that child to say to the teacher, the coach, or the principal, can you make accommodations for me?
Right.
And that's wrong. Look, if we have transgender, and we do, some children sincerely believe they're transgender at school, a small number, then school districts with common sense can make common accommodations. But this is turning our school policy upside down, on its head. It's taking your children away from your parents, and it's quite frankly going to be the beginning of the end of our public schools. No parent is going to want their child to go to a school where boys can shower with girls, where girls can go into the boys' room, they're not going to tolerate it. They're not going to accept it, and the children are not going to accept it. And it's going to disrupt the classrooms. Look, you can imagine how kids are. Kids are kids. So let's say little Johnny, who believes he's Mary, goes into the bathroom, and Sally doesn't feel comfortable. She's 9 years old. She's embarrassed, or she's 14. She's embarrassed, and she goes to the principal and says, "Can you do something for me? Can you make accommodations?" The kids are going to find out about it. And they're going to say, "Hey, that's Sally. She's afraid of Johnny going to the bathroom, and they'll start taunting her and start making fun of her just because she was uncomfortable in that situation. Why are we trying to social engineer our schools? These are children. Let them be children. This policy also says that they recommend that they end gender dividers. Now, what are gender dividers? Gender dividers are phrases like boys and girls. So the teachers are now instructed to call them students and scholars. No more boys and girls. You know what? I think, when you're in elementary school and junior high and even high school, but I think it's okay to have boys and girls.
Well, what has happened? Well, it is amazing that in 2016 this is even an issue. And I received a text message earlier, Lieutenant Governor, that I kept on using the phrase "use common sense." Has all common sense just left the building?
No, I'll tell you what has left the building is courage. What has left the building is courage. Because, I used to think it was common sense, and it is common sense. It's common decency. Look, I've already been in the news because I said we're going to pass legislation to keep men out of ladies' rooms because I don't want my 8-year-old granddaughter walking into a bathroom and have a 30-year-old man there. I don't want my 89-year-old mother walking into a bathroom and finding a 30-year-old man in there. So that's with adults. But this is now, and that should be common sense, but this is with children. And in this case, we just have to have the courage to stand up for what we believe. This isn't a partisan issue, by the way, Chad. In Houston, we had a lesbian mayor. She's no longer mayor. She was term limited out. She was popular in the city. She tried to pass an ordinance in Houston last year that would have allowed men in ladies' rooms. And I got heavily involved in that issue, which I don't normally. I spent a lot of money in TV ads. I joined other people, and we defeated that 2-1. 65% of the people of Houston, which is about a 70% Democrat city by vote, turned that down. They didn't want that because that is common sense. That's common decency, privacy, the courtesy of women, the safety of women. And so we stopped that. So now this is the Obama administration, the Justice Department. And what they're basing this on, and this is the fight with North Carolina, and the people are standing tough there. I know the lieutenant governor, they're standing tough. But and the citizens are rallying around them. This is what this is all based on. Title IX, and people will say, what was Title IX? It sounds familiar. In 1972, Title IX was passed by Congress that said that no child in school should be discriminated against for any reason, for race, for religion, color, and sex. And I have a son and a daughter. When they are now grandkids, they're grown. But when they were in school, Title IX allowed my daughter to play sports because before the 70s, there weren't all the programs equal for girls as there were for boys. So Title IX was fine. It equaled things out. But what the Justice Department and the Obama administration says, it says in Title IX, no one should be discriminated upon sex. And what they're interpreting that to say, not necessarily the sex they were born with, but the sex they believe they are. This is not in law. That's not what the Congress had in mind. Transgender wasn't even discussed in the 1970s in terms of being an issue.
Well,
so that's what they're basing this on, that this is a civil rights issue, that a person who believes their sex is different than what they were born with, that they're protected under this, and they should not be discriminated against. And that's the reason why, even in this guideline, if this boy who believes he's a girl wants to run for prom queen, he can. If he wants to run for homecoming queen, he can. Whatever he wants to do. This is the Obama administration's last gasp before leaving the White House door in 7 months of trying to impact our entire school system. And it will be the end of public education. This is a poster child for school choice, which I've always supported, because no parent should be forced to send their child to a school that keeps from them what their child's activities are and fosters social engineering of their children. That's not what they're designed for.
Real quickly, Lieutenant Governor, we've got about 2 minutes left here.
Yeah.
How big of a priority for you going into the next legislative session will a North Carolina-style bathroom law be for you and for the Senate?
Look, for me personally, and I hope for the Senate, we are starting now to gather and look at issues. So we've had a lot of hearings, a lot of issues for the session coming up. The next session. And by the way, you have a great senator in Charles Perry who stands strong on this issue with me. I mean, he's solid as a rock as you can be on this issue. But look, my priorities are to reduce people's property taxes. My priorities are to lower the cost of tuition that's skyrocketed 147%. By the way, Texas Tech is not one of the bad perpetrators of that. They've done a good job of holding the line many years, but across the state, our college tuition is out of sight, and it has to come down. My priority is protecting life and Second Amendment issues. My priority is passing a budget without increasing taxes, even in a tough economic time. But I will tell you that, Chad, that one of my priorities is keeping men out of the ladies' rooms. Now, I didn't think I was going to have to deal with school issues. And people real quick have said, we had the left out there and the gay activists, calling me a bully, and why is Dan Patrick involved in this? Stay in Austin, you're lieutenant governor. This is a local issue. Look, this superintendent circumvented. Local control means people get a chance to vote. But he didn't give the people a chance to vote. He didn't even give the board a chance to vote. He didn't have any hearings on this until he was forced to last night. So when people are robbed of local control, then it is my call to step in. And we send $350 million a year to that school district of state taxpayers' money. So it is my role overseeing our entire school system of 6 million kids and 8,500 schools. And
Lieutenant Governor, thank you very much. I got to get going.
Hey, thank you.